told you all that I was the greatest of all time when I beat Thunder. Listen, I told you today I'm still the greatest of all time. Never again defeat me. Never again say that I'm going to be defeated. Never again make me the underdog until I'm about 50 years old. That's right. Then you might get me.
Top of the morning, fight fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Keith one-time Thurman. For those who don't know, Keith Thurman will be returning to the ring February 5th, and he will be coming off a 2.5-year layoff after being defeated for the first time in his career to Manny Pacquiao. And he is going to fight Mario Barrios, okay? The same Mario Barrios that was stopped by Gervonta Tank Davis at 140. What's my thoughts about that? Well, it's about time that Keith Thurman came back in the ring. He's been out of the ring too long. There's no excuse on why he stayed out of the ring like that. Him and Andy Ruiz had that in common. The only difference is Andy Ruiz turned down fights, where Keith Thurman just completely stayed out the spotlight. He stayed behind the scenes. He still talked and did this, but he didn't do anything else, okay? He should have fought in between then. So he has a lot of ring rust, I would imagine, coming off injuries and such and getting himself right. I like Keith Thurman. He's a guy that could sell himself, that can sell himself. And this is what he had to say. He said, February 5th, I'm back. It's grind time, stacked card, February 5th with be a great night. It will be a great night of boxing for the fight fans. It's Showtime 2022. Okay, yeah, my brain wouldn't allow me to say that. But stacked card. You got Leo Santa Cruz versus Keenan Carbajal, Abel Ramos versus Josecito Lopez, Luis Neri versus Carlos Castro. All on pay-per-view. Well, this fight would be okay if it wasn't another PBC fight on pay-per-view. Keith Thurman, we haven't seen him in over 2 years, going on the third year. We ain't seen him since 19, and he comes back on the beginning part of 2022, right? Imagine you've been locked up since the summer of 2019. You haven't seen any fights, you haven't done anything, and then you get out. And then you know, and you were a fan of Keith Thurman, right? And then you get out and only to find out he hasn't fought since the time you got locked up. What would you think? I mean, that would be great for a person that did get locked up, incarcerated, lived under a rock or whatever. But unfortunately, that's not everybody. Keith Thurman hasn't done anything to show his marquee value or drawing power or marketability or any of that. He hasn't showed anybody nothing. He showed that he can talk. He showed that, you know what I mean? But in the ring, you haven't seen a thing. Bars. Right? So I don't really understand why it's on pay-per-view. Well, you have to understand something. I think that something is the fact that these pay-per-views are being rapidly shot out by PBC. If you notice, you know, Charles Martin, Luis Ortiz, pay-per-view. Keith Thurman, Mario Barrios, pay-per-view. You know, these pay-per-view fights are exactly the opposite on why the core reason Al Heyman wanted to broadcast and showcase these guys. If you guys can remember, the PBC Premier Boxing Champions was a free TV platform. Do you guys remember? And the same guys, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Deontay Wilder. A lot of these guys were on free TV. Now, free TV turned into pay TV. How did that happen? Okay, I'm going to tell you how it happened. Fox cut the budget. They didn't want to pay these fighters what they felt they were worth. So Al Heyman knew, hey, I have to pay these guys based on what their contract says. That's why they stay with me. So I throw them on pay-per-view, and they're not smart enough to understand where they were versus where they are. See, the lower and lower this pay-per-view number does. See, that Gervonta Tank Davis fight was piss poor. And it was piss poor because people were lying about how much power and drawing power he actually brings in, because people don't want to pay for that. We don't want to pay for that. If you get a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis fighting somebody you never heard of, a tune-up fight on top of it, not even a tune-up fight, a mediocre fight, and then that's a replacement of that mediocre fight. Who wants to pay for that? Keith Thurman is coming off a 2.5-year layoff, fighting a guy that just come off a loss for 1, and that's his tune-up for 2. And you want to put that on pay-per-view? You have got to be out of your mind. That just shows you there's a reason they're doing that. You couldn't put this man on regular TV so people can see that Keith Thurman is back. And Keith Thurman, you think Keith Thurman had a choice in the matter when it being on free TV or not? He doesn't have those type of choices. None of them do over there. They do what they're told. Okay, they follow who they were led to believe in, and they were led to believe in Al Heyman. So as long as Al Heyman's calling the shots, Floyd, he's getting to run around too, and that's what it is. That's what happens when you got one guy that knows how to do things, one guy that has connections to all the other things and not everyone else. Okay, not even fighters, and fighters did have it. Why do you think Canelo is so popular now? Because he called his own shots. He pulled the plug on his huge promotional company and deal and made his own deal. He cut out the middleman, Oscar De La Coca, right? He cut that cat out. He cut out De La Hoya. And these fighters, they don't have that type of charisma because they don't have that type of mindset. But most importantly, they don't have that type of power. Okay? So those guys do whatever. So Keith Thurman, he has to be, they put him in limbo. They put him in jeopardy. They gamble with him to see if he'll sell tickets. And if he doesn't sell tickets, Al Heyman will be like, well, what do you want? You know, it's on pay-per-view. Instead of just putting it on free TV, giving these guys a pretty decent salary, give them about $400,000 or $500,000 a piece, give Mario Barrios 25%, give Keith Thurman that. Give him 100. Even if it was $1.5 million, okay, $1.5 million, $1 million would go to Keith Thurman, and 500,000 will go to Mario Barrios. But what they're doing is they probably made it lower than that because they ain't getting that much. What they're gonna do, they're gonna fork the bill and put it on pay-per-view and hope people buy that shit so they can pay for their salaries with you and me for fights we don't want to pay for. And now you hear people that are now talking boycott. Whenever you don't like how things are going, boycott is the best solution. Why? Because it hits them where it hurts, their pockets. And they keep pulling that shit over there at PBC talking about, hey, pay-per-view this and pay-per-view that. I was happy when I seen Luis Ortiz and Charles Martin, but then pay-per-view, at least it was $29.99. That Gervonta Tank Davis fight was $80. They really tried to rob you. It would be different if it was $25.99, $30.99, $29.99. That would be a different story because you would think that ain't nothing but $30. But if you take that and you double it and then you add more onto it, what do you really have? You have a robbery. They're trying to rob us for these damn fights with Keith Thurman. You don't know how Keith Thurman is going to come back. The last time he came back against the guy on the undercard, Josecito Lopez, he almost got knocked out. And you want to put that on pay-per-view? They're broke over there and they trying to play us like fools. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Keith Thurman coming back to the ring February 5th on pay-per-view. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.